Shalom, good evening from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallin, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America, in New York State in 1981, now celebrating our 44th year. And today is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, in the Gregorian calendar, since it is after nightfall. It is the 21st day of the 8th Israelite Hebrew month of Kislev in the Hebrew year 5786. Now I want to welcome you to episode 5 of my renewed weekly Music of the Worlds and Other Tidbits program, of which I'm the host. I don't think the term chairman it's not an academic seminar, so to speak. Why did I say renewed? Because this was the weekly radio program I had in college. Music of the World is self-explanatory. So what were the other tidbits? Students and professors always have something to talk about. This is the first I've been warming up with all of this. This is the first time I'm having guests to talk to on my show. And we're going to be talking to, as Mary and someone else is with us, we're going to be talking to Chava and Rivkah, who I would like to know, well, there's also some things I'd like to know that are public and can be discussed publicly, not just not talking people about their private lives, but how they became herbalists or herbologists. I'm not even sure. We'll get into that. Now, because it's about music of the world and other tidbits, let's start with some music of the world. Pashtun ethnic music. When I was at Swarthmore, this was a big deal back in 1974, 1978. For a college radio station of a small liberal arts college, we had 10,000 records, and many of them were from Nonosuch. The company still exists. And what did Nonosuch do? They sent their music ethnocologists all over the world, and I mean all over the world, to the igloos and canoes up the Amazon to record music of the many, many different clans, tribes, and families of the human family all over the world. And so I would play this. The more obscure, the better. So we're going to be going through that in the next weeks and months and years, as long as the program goes on, with music from all over the world. So let's go listen to a little Pashtun ethnic music, and then we're going to talk to Chava and Rivkah about their amazing field of activity, which is helping so many people. I'm going to mute myself. There's no background noise here. Let's go to our song.
You're muted, little Arya.
All right, so we're starting off with a little, in this case, Pashtun music. And I'm supposed to tell you a little bit about that before we go to Rivkah and Chava are Madam Co-chairs along with Gila Weiss in Florida, three mighty women of the God of Israel, of our Ancient Roots Mothering, Roots, Nettles, and Sage monthly seminar on natural healing, which should really come from the women of the world. They have these traditions going back to our first mother, Eve, and they are, I wouldn't say masters, mistresses of these healing arts, and from also deeply rooted in the land of Israel and a Torah perspective, which is unique. So we're going to be talking to them. How did you end up becoming herbologists? How do you pronounce it? So let me say, all right, the Pashtun for people, Pathans. There are about 80 million of them in the world. Their homeland is Pashtunistan. It's in what is now Afghanistan and Pakistan. They believe, most of them, they are descended from the lost tribes of Israel. The Assyrians, in three deportations, deported the northern 10 tribes east. And I'm one of those people who believes that those traditions are correct, and they're starting to reunite with us now. We are 12 tribes of Jacob Israel, of which what is known as the Jews are a small part. Uh, the Jews, and those who joined us along the way from the tribe of Judah and Benjamin here in the land of Israel. Uh, I just say this. The Pathans, Afghanistan is known as graveyards of empires and nations because everyone who marches in gets beaten up and defeated by the Pathans. And whether it's the Russians or whoever, the British, everybody. So in 1978, they had a pretty good life there. It was pretty quiet until 1978. Nothing much went on. They lived in the little villages in the mountains. And uh, because the conditions are so rough there, if you're sickly, you didn't survive birth and childhood. So they're built like tanks genetically. Small Pathans are 6 feet tall, the big ones are 7 feet tall, and they're admired throughout the entire cowardly, murderous Arab and Muslim world as great fighters. I mean, fighters, not people who burn alive babies, fighters, as in warriors, as in real men, of which there are few, if any, in the Arab and Muslim world. And they are very afraid of them. Have attempted to. When Najibullah came in 1978, there was a communist coup, and thousands of their religious teachers, they have a mild form of Sunni Islam with a heavy Sufi mystical influence overlaid on their Israelite traditions, of which they're very proud. They didn't like that, so they fought back. And then the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, moved in. Within 10 years, managed to have a real mass murder, genocide, and Holocaust until they collapsed in 1988 because the Pashtun were willing to take unlimited casualties and were fighting back. So then there was plunged into chaos till today, in which the Taliban are in charge. They are ethnic Pathans who follow the Deobandi school of the Wahhabi Salafi satanic suicide murder, Canaanite child human sacrificing death cult of the Al Saud tribe of Najd, Arabia, for 275 years. And for 92 years, it's the state religion of the not real kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That's their state religion and tribal religion, which was established in 1933. So they are very afraid of this because I'm talking now to bin Salman and the monster in the ones in Kuwait and Turkey and who are temporarily there in Syria. They belong to us, not to you. We will have them back. And there's nothing you can do to stop it because it's coming from God. So the dark, terrible cloud of Saudi Arabian Wahhabism. Wahhabis, as they are called by Sunnis and Shiites, call themselves Salafis. And they have virtually unlimited money from the oil and the gas, and they control the holy places of Islam since about 1924. It's bad news for humanity in general, and the Sunni world in particular. 90% of the world's Muslim population is Sunni, have attempted to convert our people, Israelite Pathans, to their tribal death cult. And that's why they have all those madrasas in northern Pakistan, where they train little 8-year-old Pashtun orphans to be suicide murderers, and like what you saw with Hamas. So before we go to our program, and I know who's listening out there. Oh boy, do I know. I have a warning. If you are a Wahhabi cleric, you leave Afghanistan and Pakistan now. Get out, because when the explosion comes, and it's coming, you won't be left alive for the crimes you committed against our people in particular. Leave now. And also to the Saudi secret services and Qatar, they're bit players in all this. And the CIA, you have failed. You have caused tremendous harm, and you will be punished for it by God Himself. So leave now. You won't. You'll have to learn the hard way, like Pharaoh with the 10 plagues. You will simply be destroyed. We will have our people back. They're already reuniting with us now, with Jews worldwide and Jews in Israel. You cannot stop this. And it doesn't matter how much money you have or how many weapons you have. This is on the spiritual level. And as we go to our program with Rivkah and Chava, I want to cite Napoleon Bonaparte, who made two amazing, he was a very intelligent man. He said, men are ruled by trinkets, like oil, gas, petrodollars, deals, and pesos in the pushka, like for the moral prostitute in chief of the United States, and his son and his son-in-law, and his sleazy New York Jewish sidekicks. But Napoleon said, as much as men are ruled by trinkets, the spiritual is to the material as 3 is to 1. That's why we win and you lose. I suggest you do this graciously, because time is running out very rapidly for you. Now we're going to talk to two of the world's leading healers, Chava and Rivkah. We have 40 minutes, and we have our friends here, Sharon and Mary. We would really like to know, how did you become, first of all, what do herbologists, herbalists, what do you even call it, and what is it?
I'm waiting for Chava to jump in, and Chava's waiting for me to jump in. Chava, do you want to start?
Um, well, I think you have a better definition of herbalists, and if you want to describe that better.
Okay, so I would call us herbalists or clinical herbalists, because clinical because we see clients and have a clinic. I have a free clinic for my community in herbal medicine, and I see clients. So clinical herbalists, and I know Chava does as well. And then I was asked this question when I was speaking in America most recently. Is it herbalism? Is it herbology? Like, what is it? And herbology sounds more Harry Potter-esque, so that's maybe that we should be using that more. That sounds more fun. But it's all the same thing. It's somebody who works with the plants that Hashem created, that Hashem's natural medicine that grows right out of the earth, that's completely bioavailable to other organic life forms on this earth. In other words, it's not processed. There aren't isolated compounds in a lab. It's not synthetic. So we're working with the medicine Hashem made to try and help people support their bodies and nourish themselves to do what our bodies were created by God to do, which is heal themselves, come back to a state of wholeness. I just made that up on the spot, that definition.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So should I just go into where everything started, at least
Go
for me?
ahead, and Mary and Sharon just pipe in with questions and comments as we go along for our seminar. And for our viewers and listeners out there, if there was, I mean, the world has always been screaming out in pain and needs a lot of shoulders to cry on and hugs. Uh, the whole world needs this. So we all want to know more about how you came and how you trained yourself. I mean, do you go to school for this, like the Reedman School or all these other schools, or it's home taught, or traditions from grandma? How did you get to where you are?
Um, well, okay, so it's kind of a long story. I'll try and make it short. Um, First of all, I wanted to say you keep talking about Swarthmore. I went to Bryn Mawr, which is just down the street, basically. So I traveled a lot when I was younger.
You went to Bryn Mawr after all our years. You never told me that. Swarthmorons, Bryn Martyrs, and Haverfreudians. I think Bryn Mawr is still a girls' college. Haverford, I'm not sure if they became co-ed. Swarthmore was founded co-ed. They're all founded by Welsh Quakers. And unfortunately, whatever colleges we went to, they got into all this DEI BS. No longer, as far as I can tell, they're gone with the wind. But at least when we were there, there were still colleges with standards. I'm a little bit older than you, but even when you were there, they still had standards. So, wow, I didn't know that. That's amazing. All outside of Philadelphia on the main line, I think. Go ahead.
So, after going to college in Philadelphia, I went to college in Oregon, back to the West Coast where I actually grew up. And then I went into the Peace Corps, in Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, they dropped me off in the middle of a jungle at the top of a mountain. I built a little mud hut and I literally just lived on the top of this mountain overlooking the entire jungle with cobras and scorpions and monkeys and elephants and tigers and everybody else. And I built my little mud hut and it was awesome. But that's where I like really, really got in touch with just living in nature and what's growing around me. And the villagers helped me and taught me. And then I was just like, I don't understand why we're not living like this, in the States, or at least where I came from. It seems so far removed from where our food comes from as to we walked outside and we picked bananas and mangoes from the trees. And so I had it in my head, and it was already, my training was started just from the villagers teaching me everything that they knew. And um, like coconut doesn't just have the benefits of food. We used it for our hair and our bedding and our roofs. And I mean, everything was nothing was wasted. Let's just put it that way. So we learned many, many uses for one uh, plant or one herb or one leaf or one tree or one whatever. So that's kind of where it really started for me. And then after Sri Lanka, I came here and I just kind of continued where I had left off from there. I became a mom and all of a sudden I don't feel correct. I don't feel comfortable going to some strange pharmaceutical doctor telling me what I need and shoving all kinds of weird things into my children. So I stayed away from that. And if you're going to stay away from that, well, you got to do something. How are you going to keep the kid healthy and your peace of mind balanced? And so I had to start learning, and I had to start learning quick. And so I did. And that's basically where it all came from. And the deeper you go, the more you want to learn, and then the more it comes to you. And it's kind of like a rabbit hole, but a really good one. Um, yeah, that's the short of it. Rivka, you want to talk about your experience?
I think you should add, I mean, you wrote a book about this and talking about also coming to Israel and being part of Israeli society, and then seeing how kids were raised, and then having the pressure that we both had to put our kids into daycare and to do all these tipat halav visits, all these baby checkups and all these things. And you really like felt, I love how you describe it in the book. Like you felt that it wasn't resonating with your truth.
Right. It wasn't. Well, that's again why I had to like, so my husband is Israeli and that's the world he came from. And so there's not even a question with his own family of what to do with children. There's the pressure of having the hospital birth because obviously, and then giving them the bottle because obviously, and every single vaccination there was obviously, and going to Tipat Chalav and having weekly or daily checkups because obviously this is what we do. And I was like, no, no, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't look right. And so I didn't do any of it. Nothing. Everything they told me to do, I said, no, I'm just staying home. Um, and again, so it forced me because then they're like, well, you're going to ruin the child. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And so I have my own proof, my own experience, my own reading, my own um, daily interaction with my own children and how I'm feeding them and, you know, using God's amazing herbs and natural foods and whatever to heal them or keep them preventatively from getting sick. And so I had the proof. Otherwise, I would have been overwhelmed from all the pressure with nothing to stand up. So I had it all behind me, holding me up. I was forced into it, but thankfully.
Yeah, I feel like maybe all human beings, maybe I'm going on a limb here. I'm just like for funsies hypothesizing here. Maybe all human beings get this kind of glitch in the matrix from God where they can decide to kind of start asking questions and have mindfulness about things that we take for granted or just keep going and continue taking things for granted. For me, the that I guess that moment, I also, it's a long story, I'll try to make it short, but when I was young, when I started getting my menstrual cycle when I was a teen, I started having very painful cycles. And my parents, and Lowell, you can appreciate this because I know we've talked about some of your parenting challenges where you have a medical issue for, one or more of your children, and it's you're just doing everything you can to take care of your child. And my parents also did. Um, and so they were taking me to these OBGYNs and all these things, and I was having pain. And the reality is if you read Dr. Robert S. Mendelsohn, one of my heroes in Male Practice, MALE, Male Practice, um, he talks about how women are often, they're just disbelieved. They're seen to be as, hypochondriacs, exaggerating. And so obviously when a 13, 14, 15-year-old girl is coming in saying, I can't get out of bed, I'm in terrible, terrible pain, the doctors are going, oh, wow, you're just a wuss, basically. And you're imagining it and it's all in your head, and all my blood tests were coming up fine and everything was okay. And I was an avid reader, and I would go to the neighborhood, bookstore where you could get a big bag full of used books for $1. That's how I would spend my lunch money. And yeah, I found a book about women's health and found a section about endometriosis, which I had never heard about before. And I read this chapter and I realized that this was what I had. And so I think at that time, I must have been about 16. I'd been going through this for years. Doctors have their protocol for menstrual pain. So I was on birth control pills, even though I wasn't sexually active. I was still put on birth control pills off label for this use, as nearly, so I can't say every, but so many women are. Certainly many of my friends were. Um, and of course, then I have all the side effects that no one talks about. So there's mental side effects, depression, other things from putting a young girl whose body is trying to regulate her own hormones on synthetic hormones. And so then I was battling depression, and everyone's trying to figure out if I was bipolar or what was I. And in the meanwhile, I had this horrible pain, and then everything I was lying, and they're trying to figure out what kind of psychomatic, it was like a psychological issue. And I went to this doctor at age 16 and I said, "This is what I have." And he laughed me out of the office. And he, this whole, "Oh, honey, sweetie, you're not a doctor. You let the doctors figure out what's wrong with you. That you can't have this. Only professional women 30 plus can have endometriosis," which was actually what was believed in those days. Now it sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly what he told me. And I finally did find a doctor who believed me. Certainly my parents didn't. And I don't necessarily blame them. I had psychologists who were also encouraging them to believe that I was mentally ill or there was some problem. By the time I was, I think, 19, I finally found an OBGYN who said that it does sound like I have endometriosis, and there was no way to diagnose outside of exploratory surgery. So I had the surgery and got a definitive diagnosis of endometriosis. And I had several surgeries after that. There's no known cure in Western medicine for endometriosis except perhaps pregnancy or menopause. So a lot of times if a woman's, wants to have kids and she's married and of that age, they'll recommend a pregnancy. But otherwise, they'll recommend a complete hysterectomy, which they did for me. So I was 19. I was told I need a complete hysterectomy by the time I'm 25. I would never be able to have children. And I really wanted children, and I was young. And thank God my, OBGYN was an immigrant from China. This was when I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she told me, "Look, Western medicine doesn't have anything for you. I've taken your case to Harvard. I've taken your case to professors. Nobody can figure out what to do for you. We've done everything we know to do." They would keep operating on my endometriosis and it would keep coming back. And she said, "If I were you and it were me, I would go into traditional Chinese medicine, into acupuncture and Chinese herbs, and see if you have some luck there." And she had a friend, incidentally, who wasn't Chinese, who was a practitioner in Berkeley, California. And I went there, and my eyes were suddenly opened to a whole new world, a whole new modality of healing, something far more ancient than pharma. And I think that was really my moment where, it's like in The Wizard of Oz, where, you see the wizard behind the curtain. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. So many of us do what we're told and pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But some of us see the man behind the curtain, and I saw pharma for its true colors. I saw the Western medical model for its true colors that day. And then I saw that there were alternatives. And I just, at that point, became a voracious reader and an autodidact. I taught myself everything I know. I read voraciously. I spoke with other practitioners. I realized there were different modalities even within herbalism. There's traditional Chinese, there's traditional Indian, there's the Western tradition, there's the eclectics. And I started hearing about culpepper, and I started hearing about, all these different, even these American legends, like Susan Weed and Matthew Wood, who we actually, Chava and I, brought into the Ancient Roots Israel International Herbal Conference, which I started back in 2019. And yeah, it just all kind of spiraled from there. But there is a conscious moment, I think, where you have to decide if you're going to see the man behind the curtain or you're going to go back to sleep. What else would you like to know, little Aryeh? But you're muted. Okay.
Well, I unmuted
Yeah.
myself.
Okay.
Well, first, I'd like to say that we're at a watershed moment in cosmic human history with the myth of the doctor as God. I heard this kind of comments. What do you mean the doctor is God? How could you even say something like that? The man in the white coat. It's after what's happened the last 5 years with the extermination injections and suicide shots and the mass betrayal of if Hippocrates was alive today, probably commit Japanese ritual suicide. You're supposed to take an oath. Most of you have violated the the oath, and you should be have your license to practice medicine removed before your medical war crimes trials for medical mass murder on a scale unprecedented in human history. I think that the matrix, the mystique of the doctor as God. The doctor knows. The doctor, he's really Marcus Welby. No, he's not. He's Hannibal Lecter.
I don't know if you want to just,
He's Dr. Mengele. Most of them say,
this is,
I
we
think
got
that
gas
that's
for the
in the
music going,
process of
so I'm not
beginning
sure.
to break down, and that therefore there'll be much more openness to uh, people asking all sorts of questions like what happened to natural medicines when Mr. Rockefeller converted everything to oil-based medicines 100 years ago? Why did he do that? What did these people have in mind? And the American Medical Association and all the other associations. Okay, so grew up poor and rough. He made a lot of money. Why would at the end of your life, and he's in heaven and hell, wherever why would you want to do that to Americans? All that's been done in your name for 100 years with your foundation. What was your intention to make sick and dumb down the American public for 100 years? What did you think you were accomplishing by that? What weird religious was it revenge because you had a bad childhood? You want to get even with everybody? Okay, you made all your money, fine. What was the point of all of this? So we're now at a point like when Gutenberg invented, what was it, movable type, the revolution in printing, Protestant Reformation. It's a Mount Sinai level moment for medicine all over the world as millions of people are getting sick and dying from not from incompetency, but from criminality. And or where people lower down in the system will say, well, I really didn't know that. I just trusted my professor. That's possible lower down, but not up the line. So there'll be a lot more openness to what you've learned in our teaching and practicing. So I'd really like to hear from Adi and Mary and Mike and Maureen and Sharon for their questions and comments for you about what you practice. You've spoken about how you got involved in being herbalists, and we only have 20 minutes left for this program. I'm sure they have so many questions and comments. I'd like
I
to hear
have
what
a
they have to
comment
say.
that based on everything you said, I would like to encourage everyone to read Dr. Robert S. Mendelsohn, who I just referenced, especially his best-selling book, I believe in the 1980s, Confessions of a Medical Heretic, where he discusses the parallels between the Western medical model and a priesthood of a new religion that had been developed. And really, in my opinion, we've memory hold millennia of the healing arts that come directly from God, as purely as it's even in our midrash, in our Torah, in our teachings. Our own teachers, our own rabbis wrote extensively about the godliness of herbal medicine. And they have, or I guess we ourselves have somehow managed to memory hold so much of that wisdom and that knowledge.
Right. We have two hands up. No, you don't, ladies, because everyone here, as I can see, is ladies, except for myself. You don't have to raise your hands, just pipe right in. But before you do, about what you said in Superfarm, which is like for you, American CVS, it's a chain all over Israel. You can get colloidal silver, and my wife and daughter do. But usually, when you do, the person in the pharmacy section will say, oh, you're into that medieval medicine? Okay, just I'll reach under. We don't put it on display, but we will carry it. It's even amazing to even carry it. Oh, you're into this medieval stuff. They think that's fun. What do you want that for? We got all this new stuff.
There's
That's what, at least have a
one
sense of humor.
herbal pharmacy in the country of Israel. One that somehow managed to slip through. It's run by Nir Abraham, who was one of our speakers, and I consulted with for the most recent conference. And it's the exact opposite, Lil Aryeh, from what you said. He has all herbs and herbal formulas when you walk into that pharmacy, totally legal pharmacy in Israel. And if someone comes in and wants a pharmaceutical, he has to reach all the way down in the drawers. Oh, you want that? You want that?
It's the
And
opposite there.
yeah, and he'll pull
So,
out like Ecamol or
to
something
be
like that.
fair to the Ministry of Health here, which there are, I'm talking about a chain, super farm. There are all sorts of legal little farms, mom and pop operations, which are legal, which will legally sell traditional medicines, which the government fortunately does not stop. So I'm just was talking about one of the chains, Super Farm, where there, oh, you say in the natural pharmacy, they reach under the counter for the new stuff. Whereas in Super Farm, they reach under the counter for the old stuff. That's actually very funny. So Adi and Miriam, go
Yeah,
right
I have a
ahead.
comment.
Please go
I have a
right ahead,
comment.
ladies. Yes.
This is Mary. I have a comment.
Hi.
Um, uh, I can't remember who said they had horribly painful menstrual periods, but I used to as well. And because of my family's, my mother felt, well, this is normal. You're a woman, you're going to deal with this. So I never actually wound up going anywhere. I just dealt with it. And at 2 days out of every month, I was very sick. And actually getting pregnant did actually fix it. Um, but and I wasn't impressed with labor because I had gone through labor once a month for years, extremely painful. But something that I ran across a while back is that blood work. When you get blood work run, the normals are based on white male. And I have nothing against white males. I'm related to a bunch of them, but you're not going to have the different normals for different races, and they didn't even run any of the baseline normals against women because women were just too complicated with their menstrual cycles. It made it too difficult to figure out what was normal and what wasn't. So when I go and they do my blood work, and I only use Western medicine to get a diagnosis of what they think is going on, and then I usually reject all their treatments. But when you bring that up to a doctor, that the normals he's running my blood work against is for white men, it their heads explode. It's like they don't get it.
That's ridiculous. My question is regarding what's happening over there now. We just received in one of our other Zoom sessions some information that a study came out on the mRNA being in they've ended up finding it in the pregnant women's placenta and in their blood, and they also found it in the women that had been vaccinated. They also found it in 50% of the unvaccinated. So now that they said that this is now looking like it's proof that it shed, that all these vaccinated people shed. Are you coming up with any kind of a protocol at all to help? Is there anything that you are doing? Because now you've been, all your whole family's probably been subjected to it one way or another. I don't know to what extent. All I know is I didn't do it. I have been having my blood work done at a dark light field microscopy where she actually takes my blood and she puts it on one of those glass plates and puts it under the microscope, and we look at my blood for about an hour and a half, and the spike proteins are in the blood. So are you coming up with anything? Is there anything that you can suggest for clotting or heart damage?
I'm not actually dealing with this, but I can say that I always go to my go-to everyday celery juice.
Celery juice. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I know everyone's tired of me saying it, but it's
It
for
is
our
delicious.
times. God brought it down here for our times because he knew exactly what we're going to be going through. On top of all the other wonderful herbs and things like that, it just helps them work even better.
Yeah, I think I know that God created our bodies, Hashem created our bodies to heal themselves. It's miraculous. I mean, I think everybody knows that, but when I say that, depending on the audience, I might get a, whoa, they're so woo-woo, you're so out of there. So I always try to say, like, have you ever got a paper cut and, and the skin just grows back together without any stitches or pharmaceutical drugs? Like, have you ever fallen down and skinned your knee and then the cells regenerated and your knee looked okay after a week or something? Like, I think it's strange that I would have to prove that. When I grew up, I mean, that was what all our moms said to us. If we fell down or we got bumped, it'll heal, it'll be fine, it'll heal. Everyone understood that our bodies could heal themselves. And so I think, first of all, it's good to hear from you, Adi. I hope you're well. Um, I think
By the
that
way, ladies, anyone who wants to join us in speakers view, you can, but the way the system works, you have to have the video on, I think. Otherwise, I can't bring you down into a panel discussion. So if you'd like to join, is that true? Wait a second. Let me try and we'll move to gallery view. Will that work? Okay, here we all are. Some of us we can see, and some of us we can't. So at least we see names and we can have a group discussion with Chava and Rivkah, and we'll have more time because our speaker at 7 was in the hospital for 3 days and he's not up to having his seminar this evening. So you ladies just go right ahead because these are very serious issues that need to be discussed, and please go ahead.
so as for shedding, I mean, the way I see it, and it's like anything else that gets introduced into our environment. Our bodies are made to navigate it and deal with it. The best thing we can do is support our bodies in that process. And it takes some time. I think everyone's familiar with the story of the Native Americans and the smallpox disaster, where, colonists coming to the United States decided to bring blankets that had that had been rubbed all over smallpox, people with smallpox, and to try and spread it to the Native Americans who had never dealt with smallpox before. And so they were really wiped out in large numbers until their bodies kind of figured out how to navigate it. And that's what natural immunity is all about. That's the process. You start with the T1 cells, move on to the T2 cells. That's the natural process of things. And that's why vaccines are so fascinating, because they actually bypass the T1 cells. And it's something that we never had a precedent for, is what happens when you bypass the T1 cells and go straight to activating those T2 cells. I'm not an expert on vaccines, and I don't talk about it much. But I do think, just in short, yeah, there's an initial danger when something new comes into the environment. And it seems like we're going to be having those new bioengineered diseases coming into our environment, unfortunately. And they can wreak havoc, but our bodies also will adapt. Other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I learned, is it correct that there's a farm somewhere in the Negev where the farmer's growing herbs and he's accepting volunteers to help him grow herbs for medicinal purposes? I know someone who was volunteering there. She said, I looked him up, I can't remember his name now, in the Negev, I think. You're not familiar with that place? No.
That's Chava's neck of the woods. So if she's
Yeah,
not piping in.
I'm just curious because this is all very, very important, and everything you're talking about is like I I get this sense that we need to be supporting ourselves, leaning towards some kind of community where we can help each other when we recognize the importance of growing things and the herbals and the tying it in with spiritual, tying it in with being in Israel. It'll be so lovely to be focused on trying to have like physical groups of people together going forward into the future to support each other. That was one thought I had.
Chava should jump in here because she's doing just that.
I would love to hear about that, Chava.
Um, well, yeah, it's been going on for a while. I have my farm and we do grow herbs and animals. I've been giving classes, soap making, salve making. Now we're getting into crocheting, um, learning about the herbs and treating people and animals. And then the war hit, and so I'm doing it, but it's tough to get people out here. So yeah, the mission is still there. Um, that's what I do. I teach people. They come out and we hands-on, walking around, identifying and making things with the herbs and you learning how to use them to treat pets and people.
Right. When you say it's hard to get people to go out there, do you mean to actually learn from you or to actually be there with you to help you? Or what do you mean?
No, to get them to come to classes. We've been in a war for over 2 years now, and although the social media in the world is calling it, oh, it's finished, there's been a ceasefire, the war is still very active and it's happening out here, and people don't, I don't blame them, but
Yeah.
getting them to come in the middle of all this. Yeah.
Right. 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 Is there any way of being in touch with you directly to talk to you more about what you're doing, Chava?
Of
I don't-
course.
Yeah.
There's my website, nettlesandpins.com.
Nettles and
And
pins. Nettles and pins, did you say?
yeah.
Okay.
Um, my email is also nettlesandpins@protonmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's listed on the website. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'll copy that. All right. I've never heard of celery juice. I haven't read anywhere near what both of you have read and studied, but I've never heard of celery juice. That's fascinating.
Mm.
Wow.
So celery juice kind of hit the world maybe 10 years ago, or no, even before that. I got into it 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago or so. And it is antiviral, antibacterial. It has its own form of vitamin C. It is filled with minerals. So at the same time that it's detoxing, it is replenishing on every level. And so when I began drinking it, I was completely after birthing 6 children, not to mention the miscarriages. I was losing my hair, the whole thyroid problem, whatever, no energy, depression, everything, couldn't sleep. And then it works the way it works is it gets to the most important thing first. So whatever it is that's really, really bad in your situation, that's where it will tackle. And then you drink it every single day before eating. I mean, you can drink it at any time, but the most potent time. And then the more you continue, the deeper it goes. And it's actually going in and repairing cells and repairing the brain and cleaning out your blood. And immediately the mood lifts. Oh my gosh, I felt like I was on cloud nine after my first cup. Like I had not felt that good for years. My hair is still until today grows back like I look like a porcupine. It just sprouts. And I don't know how, thank God, it's coming in brown as well. I haven't hit gray hair yet. Not that I have anything I'm, fine with whenever it happens, but it's just crazy. My energy, I have like boundless energy. It all came back. Everything just flipped. And the longer I drink it, and this is not just me, all of my children, my husband, things that doctors couldn't, figure out what's wrong. My husband had a vagus nerve problem. All the way down his legs. He got to the point where he couldn't walk, he couldn't work, he couldn't get up, he was in pain all the time. He had heart palpitations. I had brain fog. I mean, all of these things, and they don't disappear in one day, but it just because it's replenishing, it builds up. And then once your body is in a position where it's like, oh, I can be healthy and reverse all these things. Then all of the herbs that I had been using for years and years even worked better because now it's helping them to reach the places and be accepted by the body, the nerves, the brain, like everything. And so it's this wonderful symphony and it just never fails. I have been drinking literally daily for almost 10 years, about 10 years. I've lost count. Fixed teeth problems. My children had cavities and black spots all over their teeth. All of their brand new teeth grew back perfect. Thank God. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I've kept diaries, I've kept journals, I've done videos. Like it's just mind blowing. And it's worldwide. People, everyone who starts these things starts journaling and talking about their experiences. Everyone's got different things, their bones, their joints, whatever it is that needs to be fixed. This really, really supports you on that way and just lifts up the dial where everything else wasn't working. Now these things started working. So I can't talk enough, obviously. Every video we do, I'm like, celery juice.
How do
I'm
you
so
make
thankful to
celery
hear
juice?
this. Are you
Yeah,
making it? Do you make your own? Can we make our own? Just juice celery.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you make it?
You just juice it. I cut off the leaves. Technically, you can leave them on. Nothing's wrong with them, but the actual medicine is in that long stalk. So I will cut up an entire bunch of celery and clean it and cut off the leaves and then stick it in the juicer. And the juicer separates the fiber from the water of the celery. So you just want the water part.
And
And
it's important to just have the water part then. It's
yes,
really important to do that.
yes. And the
As
reason
opposed to blending it in a blender and pulping it, that's not good.
you
You
can
need,
blend it and then strain it. The whole point
okay.
is
Okay.
that all of these wonderful minerals and amazing things that go into it, the salts, they will stick to the fiber and then you don't get that medicine.
Oh,
And that's
Can
what you
we
want. So
add
you
salt?
separate the
Can we add?
fiber and drink just the water. And
Mm.
it just, you can feel it literally going down and then you can feel it moving in your body. And the more obviously that you do it, the more sensitive you become. Um, and so, yes, you can blend it as long as you strain it afterwards.
okay.
Can you
I
add
can't
salt
believe
to
I've
it?
never. Wow.
Can you add kosher salt to it or no?
You don't add anything to it. No, it's got
Okay.
everything. It is perfect medicine. Anything that you're going to add to it is then going to dilute or in some way affect it. So you want it pure, no ice, no lemon, nothing added. If you want to do things afterwards, you can do it before, you can do it after to, drink lemon water or your smoothie or whatever, but to give it like a good 15, 20 minutes before you add anything else to your stomach.
Thank you. I can't believe. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can I just, like you said, once you drink the celery juice and then everything else can fall in place after that, the herbs. It's making me think of wild yam cream because wild yam cream helps balance the hormones and then everything else. Is that correct?
I don't know what that is, but that's the
Oh,
idea of
it helps
celery.
with women's issues. Do we does everything
So there are contraindications. So that's my area. I put my website in the chat, ancientrootsisrael.com, but I have another website, wisewomanfertility.com. And which of course was sparked by my earlier story in my own health journey with my women's health issues. So wild yam root is known for its progesterones and building blocks for progesterones. That's not really what everyone needs. And it's not that women should take it and all of a sudden all of her hormones will be balanced. That isn't how it works. But if women for some reason are wanting some boost in their progesterones, then that may be appropriate for them.
Can I make a comment on that? I did the progesterone cream. I was getting ovarian cysts consistently after I had my children, and I had it surgically removed twice. And then finally, I came back. I came from Ohio back to California, and I had a Japanese doctor, and he told me it was a hormonal issue, and that to stop getting the surgeries, they would just keep coming back. So he handed me the book from Dr. John Lee, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Perimenopause, What Your Doctor Didn't Tell You About Menopause. So I did start on the product way back then in my 30s. By my 50s, and it's the natural bioidentical hormone, is what it is. And I will tell you that immediately it did help me. But it took, well, I won't say immediately. 3 months is about what it takes to start showing that it does work. I kept my cycles all the way up until 55 years old. And then I decided that I decided to stop taking it, because I could tell, you could immediately tell. And I always tell anybody that wants to take progesterone, I get Anna's now from Australia. And I don't do any of my hormone creams. Well, don't get anything online, is what I would like to say. That's very dangerous. I did try to buy Anna's online. They're making counterfeits of the real yam cream, so you have to be careful with that. But that you need to expect that you're going to have hormonal effects from it. It does affect you. It's not, I agree, Rivkah, that you have to be very careful when you start messing with your hormones. So with progesterone cream, you do want to do tests, and that's what I did. And I'm working with an integrative medical doctor, but I'm also doing my tests by a group called Lowell that does all the hormone testing outside of the medical system, that is correctly checking my hormones. And that was the integrative medical doctors, the one that referred me to these companies that are outside the medical system. And so I benefited from progesterone cream, one of the people that have, and also from iodine. I had fibrocysts for over 30 years, and I ended up taking iodoral. And because I finally got sick in Israel, they were kept aspirating all these fibrocysts in my breasts, and they were getting huge, and it was making me so sick. And here I'm just finally thought to myself, why am I doing this? I just need to go find out what's causing this. I did my ovaries, and it was iodine. And so I did the iodoral 3 for, I think it was a month to 3 months, and they were gone, and they've never returned. So it really is simple, these simple natural fixes for them. But with every single one of those things, you are going to expect hormonal changes. And so I think it's really important that you do find somebody that can help you, even if it's a natural path, and you pay attention by journaling the changes in the body. Just like Chava said about, with the celery juice, you start journaling and you see your successes. So I appreciate
celery juice is something I know Chava swears by, and it's been really important to her. I also did celery juice for about a year, and I didn't feel any major effects on myself. And I want to call, in general, celery juice is safe. So if everybody on earth wants to try it, you're probably not going to get hurt unless you have some kind of rare allergy, and at worst and at best, you could really make life, a life, promoting change like what Chava's experienced. But I want to be careful of the idea that there's a sort of panacea. And that's what I don't want to see open up here, is this idea that like all problems can be solved by drinking celery juice, or if you have a thyroid issue, fibrocystic breasts or whatever, it's iodine. And it reminds me of a time years ago when I early on in my practice, Wise Woman Fertility, I had had a private client, and this is why we see private clients. This is what it's all about.
Uh-huh.
That's why, going on the internet and just seeing like, this is a panacea. What do you do for? I wrote a blog. It's on wisewomanfertility.com. What do you do for? Because that's the question I get all the time. And it's not only me. Chava gets it. Gila gets it. Every herbalist I've ever known. It's like, what do you do for fibrocystic breast? What do you do for? And I get it because that's how the Western medical model is. You walk in and you say, I have this complaint. I have migraines. And they go, okay, we have pills for migraines. But our ancient ancestors didn't view health in this way at all. Our ancient ancestors really had what's now called a holistic view of health. So it's kind of like you're having migraines. Well, migraines could be from stress, bad posture, lack of exercise, a brain tumor, right? So like saying, what do I do for migraines? I don't know what to tell you. Like I would need to investigate the cause of your migraine. I would need to sit with you and I'd be looking for other markers. Are we talking about a brain tumor? Are we talking about cancer? Most migraines aren't cancer, but some are. So trying to get this one kind of general thing, it doesn't work. So I had this client, she had tried to get pregnant for years and years. She'd gone through the system, gone through IVF, all these things. And I usually get these women because they're the tough cases that Western medicine has given up on. And somehow they make their way into my practice and they go, we've tried everything and we can't get pregnant. And so I helped this woman and she conceived within a few months after probably 6 or 7 years of trying. And she was so excited about this, rightfully so. I mean, it's an amazing thing. Every time it happens, it's miraculous. But she went on these public forums and for infertility that she had been on, and she started telling these women, my herbalist told me what to do for this. You have to take X, Y, and Z. And I was really upset because at that time I had also been on those forums. And I saw it. I saw that she had written this. And I wrote to her and I said, I wrote on the public forum saying, I bet your herbalist told you that in confidence after a paid consultation of spending many hours looking at your specific medical case, your specific blood tests, your specific symptoms, and that may be harmful for somebody else. And I was talking with my sister actually about thyroid issues. So there's hyper and there's hypothyroid. And it's like, I remember people throwing around, well, just take iodine. Just iodine's great. Well, for one of those conditions, it might be really great. For the other, it might get you into a bigger hole. So
Right.
it's not a one size fits all. There's nuance in these different situations. So and that's, when we were on Dr. Zelenko's show, Lowell REA, all those years ago, and his brother Ephraim Frank was asking us these questions about like, well, what do you do for this and what do you do for that and how much this herb and I just remember we were all really struggling because it was like we were speaking two different languages. It's like, it's not a what do you do for? This isn't how this modality works. That's like having a Western medical paradigm looking, trying to look at a non-Western medical paradigm through a Western medical lens, and it would be just as ludicrous to try and do this with traditional Chinese medicine. Like if you go to my friend who's a practitioner, a TCM practitioner, and say, well, what do you do for this? Well, he's like, well, which meridian is your chi, needing a boost? Like it's a totally different way of seeing things, and they work each in their own way, but you can't interchange them. It doesn't work that way.
Well, I was going to say about the iodine too. All iodines aren't created equal. Every single one of them is different. So it's a type of iodine that you take. As far as migraines, I can testify to migraines because I had migraines since I was 5. And now it's a miracle. I'm not having migraines anymore after 60 years. I mean, I was having them 2 to 3 a week. And they gave me all kinds of stuff. I did the mustard, feed in the mustard. I tried this, I tried that. I went on migraine forums. And you'll never guess what ended up being the answer. It was water. I was dehydrated. I was always dehydrated. My body wasn't absorbing water. All I had to do was take a little bite of Celtic salt before every glass of water, and my migraines disappeared. And as soon as the headache comes, I get my Celtic salt, I take a little bite of it, drink a glass of water, and my migraine goes away. That's a long time of taking medication to get such a simple answer after I tried so many different modes to try and take away migraines. And it was the cheapest one ever. And I suffered a lot of years with migraines. So yes, every protocol is not created equal for each one of us.
Yeah. Gila, I was speaking at a conference in Colorado some time back, and there was this issue with altitude sickness. And Gila, who's not here, that what you just mentioned, water with salt, something to help really get the hydration into the cells. So I'm meeting women a lot of times in my practice who are constantly, they've got the thermos of water and they're constantly drinking water. And they're just like, there's no way I could be dehydrated. And when we start them on nourishing herbal infusions or something like that, where they're getting some mineral content, some basal salts, some different things that are naturally occurring in the plants. And actually celery, I have found that celery is magnificent for that sort of thing. And then the water is actually hydrating. And otherwise it's not, it's just going right through them. And so they may be dealing with dehydration and not even know it. And of course, with altitude sickness, that was key, which I didn't know. That's something Gila taught me, was making sure to take electrolytes or salt or, have your water in some kind of herbal formula where you're really pushing the hydration into the cells. And it made all the difference. I had another speaker who was there on an oxygen tank, vomiting repeatedly. And she's like, I was drinking plenty of water, but she wasn't taking any of the salts. It was just going right through her. And I was always, doing a pinch of salt on the tongue and then chasing it with water. And I was doing great. And so, yeah, a lot of times there are simple things, simple remedies, and Hashem created it that way. But the problem is that we've lost the practitioners, the people who can kind of make sense out of which simple thing, it's not always simple, but many times it is pretty simple, which simple thing is right for you or to guide you on that journey. It used to be that ancestral medicine, like what we practice, it was part reality, real herbal natural chemical, but chemical constituents in the plant, but also a spiritual journey. And it was like that in many indigenous cultures, not just Judaism, which is also an indigenous culture. There were shamans involved. There were rabbis involved. I mean, Rambam is considered one of the finest doctors, and by doctor I mean herbalist, in any history of all nations. So we've lost that spiritual component. Even if you think about the Middle Ages and the Catholic Church or Buddhist monks, they were the ones running the hospitals. Those were the ones making the medicine. It was the spiritual leaders, the people who were in tune spiritually, who also had the knowledge of herbs and plants. And those two things need to be integrated. And that's what Western medicine has stripped away. It's combined the spiritual component, the mind, body, spirit. It's just body only, as if we're a car that needs to go to a mechanic. Every part is a separate part. You've got your urologist, your proctologist, your cardio guy, everyone it's all specialized. We're all piece and parceled out. But in reality, it's not true. It's that man behind the curtain. We're one whole body. And when I have a problem with my heart, I'm looking to other things. Is that coming from stress? Is it coming from dehydration? I'm involving my other body parts because they work in concert. They work together. But that's been completely stripped away from the mentality and paradigm and modality of modern Western medicine.
Can I ask a question that might be a general question, but I've been running across some young women that are dealing with issues with periods, PCOS, and period pains, and not having periods, and even ovarian cysts. Is it possible that this is linked to nutrition as well as hormone problems and lack of exercise and like all these basic things, or is it purely hormonal? Or do you think it could be like in America with all the bad food and all the additives and everything? Is it a combination of everything, possibly?
Go ahead, Rivkah. I see everything as linked. Our hormones are regulated by, so many things, our thyroid, our pituitary gland, our everything. And so when there is a deficiency, as there's going to be a deficiency all the way around, one is covering for the other. Our body just works that way. So I would absolutely say yes. And it's coming from everywhere. Even the soil, as someone wrote over here, our soil is deficient, and so our foods, the healthiest, simplest vegetables that we're supposed to be getting, or meat or milk or whatever, the animals are also eating deficient food from these deficient soil. And so yeah, it's a chain. One affects the other. Absolutely.
Yeah, my gut was, from what I've read for myself, my gut was telling me it's exactly what you're saying. You can't just isolate that part of our body. My gut was telling me it's all the additives in the food and not getting exercise and not getting the salt with the water. My gut was telling me that. So I'm just saying, because I keep hearing about young women that are dealing with this issue now on different levels. And I was thinking it's just what we're living through right now.
Send them to me.
I
That's
would
what I
love to
do.
send- I would
That's
love
what
to
I
send-
love to do it because I lived through it. I lived through it. I almost lost my reproductive system at the altar of the Western medical model, and so I have a real passion for women in these situations because I was one of them, and it took me a long time to figure it out, and that's why I opened my practice. Let food be thy medicine is not just a foreign concept. It's written, I don't remember the exact quote, maybe Chava does, like your something should be for food and your leaf should be for medicine. It comes right out of our own text. Um, what we eat is
Uh,
absolutely,
what you're
you
referring
know the
to is
reference?
Ezekiel chapter 47, where it talks about the river that goes out. The fruit will be for food, and the leaf will be for healing, and the trees growing by the side of the river won't die. It's in Ezekiel 47 about I don't want to use the term magical, but renewed waters flowing out from the Holy of Holies. And on the Temple Mount, when the temple be rebuilt, and they will go to the east, they'll go to the west, and wherever those waters reach, the polluted waters will be healed. So it says the fruit will be for food and the leaf will be for healing. That's what you're referring to.
Mhm. We also say something, I think, in Birkat Hamazon, at least in the Sephardi version. I'd have to look at it to find it, but there's something that alludes to it, to the healing process of food. Um, but that is how Hashem, and it's not only food. We have to understand that everything, our whole lives and lifestyle, is not just what we eat, it's how we conduct ourselves, it's how we relate to other people, it's the thought process that goes in our head when we encounter other people's behaviors or life events or cats standing in our way or a cow on our car roof. Like that's it, I guess, an inside joke from Chava's group. You can join it. But all of these things. And so when we talk about additives in foods, on the one hand, our bodies are made to deal with these things. That's how Hashem created it. I mean, Hashem would have never put us on earth in a situation where all these horrible things can be created, but we have no defenses against it. Obviously, our bodies can adapt and develop immunity. But on the other hand, there is a real, as we continue to inundate ourselves with more and more and more, it gets more and more difficult to fight off from all angles, the radiation and the chemicals in our land and the additives and the empty foods and the bioengineered diseases, and that's the thing. It's very taxing. So we need to really go back and see. I mean, again, the smallpox, we're not the first people. Yeah, okay, maybe smallpox wasn't bioengineered. Maybe those technologies weren't available then, but it was still a deadly new disease introduced into the environment of the people who had never encountered it before. And so what did our ancestors do before the recent invention of pharma? What were they doing? Well, they were spiritually involved. Their food, they were being mindful of the herbs and the foods they ate. They used touch, the healing power of touch, be it anything from energy work to smoking a sacred pipe of herb to massage to yoga. We were involving our body, mind, and spirit. We were addressing all three of those levels in healing. And I think that's what we need to come back to in order to navigate the present day and the future that is being laid at our feet.
Ladies, if it's all right with you, I'd like to share screen to Ezekiel 47 so our viewers and listeners can see the parallel English Hebrew text dealing exactly with what you're referring to. Is that all right? Okay, let's go have a look for our participants and also for the folks out there. Let's go here. There we have it. Okay, so this is people, Ezekiel 47, and we go down, it's 48 chapters, and this is when the third and final temple will be rebuilt, and it says, right, there's a river, and it gets larger and larger. So the angel says to Ezekiel, now I'm in verse 6, have you seen this, O son of man? Then he, the angel, led me, Ezekiel, and caused me to return to the bank of the river. Now when I had been brought back, behold, upon the bank of the river were very many trees on the one side and on the other. Then said he, the angel, unto me, Ezekiel, these waters issue forth toward the eastern region, that would be towards the Jordan River, and shall go down into the Arava, and when they shall enter into the sea of putrid waters, that's referring to the Salt Sea, otherwise known as the Dead Sea. It's the Yam Melech, the Salt Sea. The waters shall be healed. Verse 9, and it shall come to pass that every living creature wherewith it swarmeth, wheresoever the rivers shall come, shall live. And there shall be a very great multitude of fish. For these waters are come thither, that all things be healed, and may live whithersoever the river comes. Verse 10, and it shall come to pass, it's only to verse 12, that fishers shall stand by it from Ein Gedi even until Ein Eglaim. There shall be a place for the spreading of nets. Their fish shall be after their kinds, as the fish of the great sea. That's the Mediterranean, exceeding many. Verse 11, but the miry places thereof and the marshes thereof shall not be healed. They shall be given for salt. We've just been discussing how important salt is. That's on the banks of the Yam Melech, the Dead Sea, the Salt Sea. And here it says, verse 12, this is what Rivkah is referring to. And by the rivers upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow every tree for food, now listen, we're dealing with the regeneration of nature here in the emerging messianic era, the Israelite world order, which is we're just at the beginning of that, whose leaves shall not wither, neither shall the fruit thereof fail. It shall bring forth new fruit every month, because the waters thereof issue out of the sanctuary. That's the Holy of Holies. The Dome of the Rock is now on top of that. It won't be there much longer. And the fruit thereof, this is what Rivkah was saying, the fruit thereof shall be for food, and the leaf thereof for healing. Okay, there you have it, right in Ezekiel's vision of the third and final temple, which shall stand forever. He describes it in the last 8 chapters, 40 through 48 of the 48 chapter book of Ezekiel. Tells you right there the healing that will go out, whether it be spiritual healing or literally. The leaf will be for fruit, will be for food, and the leaf will be for healing, and the nature will regenerate itself. That's what's coming. Unfortunately, the stupid nations of the world, in rebellion against their creator, are doing everything to stop it, even though it's for their own benefit. But we'll be getting through that soon enough. Hopefully, the nice way, not the unnice way, which would be Ezekiel chapters 38 to 39, the wars of Gog and Magog. So let's go back to what Rivkah and Chava were saying, and Miriam is discussing with them, with Adi,
Well,
about
also I want to add in the Sephardi Birkat Hamazon, it's Masha Chanu Yeh Tova v'Masha Shetinu Yeh L'Refuah. So I don't know if that's in the Ashkenazi, but
it
it is in the
is.
Sephardi.
And it's
Okay.
probably coming right from those verses in Ezekiel. And I just wanted to add some common sense suggestions of my own to what you're saying to the folks out there. It doesn't cost you any money to do what I'm going to say. Yes, drink a lot of water, preferably non-poisoned. 2, go to sleep early. The hours before midnight are very important for production of human growth hormone. Breathe through your nose, not through your mouth, because at the back of the nose is where the nitrous oxide is produced, which has to do, I think, with the human growth hormones. And the other thing is, when you breathe, imagine you're breathing into a balloon, which is your tummy, where your belly button is. Don't breathe into your chest. That produces anxiety. Imagine expand. You can do this. You don't have to be a yogic master, a Zen master. You imagine your tummy, your stomach as a balloon, and focus your mind on the belly button. Just expand it. Breathe in there. Anyone can do this. You can train yourself to do this. Just doing those things. Drink the water, early night sleep, especially the hours before midnight, and breathe properly. It's not that complicated. You don't have to be a study Herbert Benson from Harvard's The Relaxation Response, and it takes years of training. You can do it pretty quickly. It doesn't cost a penny. Those 3 things, if you do them, will have you can't lose by doing them, and don't cost you a penny. That's all I want to say. Ladies, we're back to you to continue our discussion.
Any final thoughts before we go?
I have one comment. The word reset keeps coming to my mind. We need a great, like a reset. Once we start recognizing these things, and the hardest, one of the hardest areas to understand that is with the younger people that aren't seeing it. What in my thoughts are that when we recognize all of this and how we can work together, but if your body's got to that point of overload with food and whatever, and also the overload of the phones and the overload of being disconnected from spiritual things, is it all right? Maybe my question is it getting to that point we just need to reset? We need to turn everything around somehow. That was a comment. That's a comment.
It's a great comment.
That's what Chava and Gila and I are trying to do. I think the Great Reset begins with the mothers. And we're told that the Moshiach will come in the merit of the women, and I think that this is what we're talking about. First, mothers have to reactivate their natural instincts towards their own children. I think it starts right there, and we've talked about that over the past 3 years that we've been doing our seminar with Lowell Aryeh, which we are so grateful for. That Lowell Aryeh really cared about what we had to say, because so many people didn't. I mean, we had all been trying, for so long about these things. Chava wrote a book about it, and but it's very hard, especially in Israel, to change that mindset, that kind of communist. The children are they're part of the collective. It's very, very hard to do that here.
I would love to be on board with trying to help in some way. I'm thinking I'm in the process of trying to get back to Israel, and I just can't figure out where to be. I mean, I've got Aliyah papers and everything, but I'm kind of, this is where I'm thinking, how do you combine? Because if I could do what I really wanted to do, I would just say, we need a community. We need to be helping each other, because you can't grow and cook and you can't do everything all by yourself. We all need to work together, and we all need to realize we need to bring the young people into that while we do that. And then when they start seeing the benefits, just a simple thing, drinking the celery juice, drinking the salt, learning to sew, learning to cook, learning to look at the sky and the trees, when they start seeing that, it'll grow. But it's like you're saying, but the mothers, we need to be working together somehow. That's a great
And
thought.
I think that starts in, I think Chava and Rivkah have been, it's where you are. It's like we can't all get to where they are, but we can be where we are and do what we can where we are to help our community. And how do we do that? So we pray and we ask Hashem how we can be those vehicles so that we can help the community around us. It's really important. And the last thing I just want to say is, I don't know, you guys know Codex Alimentarius. Yes, they're part of the World Health Organization. They are the World Health Organization, part of it, FDA. And they are responsible also for all the supplements everybody gets. So I think it's really important to know herbal medicine, to know these herbs and what to do with them, because Codex Alimentarius, we've been told, well, there's been people out there that have been telling us for years that they're going to be regulating that. They are regulating them, but the regulations now, and even zinc alone, we know this from the medical class, from one of the teachers in it, Ron, told us that the zinc alone now is only, it says 100% zinc, but it's only 20% now. So this is, the value of what we're even getting in our supplements. What are we taking advantage of? You're spending a lot of money on things. So really learning herbal medicine is very, very important. And for every area, I would like to go and learn about inflammation. I think that's the biggest thing everybody has now is inflammation. So if we could just get some information from you, maybe in your next Zoom on inflammation and some of the things we can do for inflammation, because that's what I'm still suffering from. Although, and I guess I should let you see what I look like now.
You look great.
I went from 98 pounds to 122 pounds now. Took 2 years to get here.
You look great, Adi.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw Adi when she was really, really battling for her health here in Israel.
Yeah, Chava helped me too. Chava really helped me too. I don't know if you remember, Chava, but I called you. I was so sick, and you helped me too. All your recommendations and everything. Right here, this thing right here, that's a wireless tent. I sleep in that because of all the wireless around my area. So I found all kinds of ways to just bring down my body, relax my body, and do things as natural as I can. Get out for walks and do what I can. But everything's natural medicine. But I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate you and everything that you did for me. But not only that what you're doing right now in encouraging women and with the herbs is so important. So I just want you to know I appreciate both of you.
Thank you. I just want to mention that there's 2 ways to really kind of get some free herbs. And an endless supply of free herbs. And I think one way is the way Chava teaches at her field school, which is growing the plants, among many other ancient crafts and handicrafts that Chava teaches. And the other is being able to utilize the wild weeds that are growing. I kill everything I try to grow. I always tell Chava, because she's got this beautiful green thumb. She can make anything grow, even blueberries in the desert. And I kill everything I plant, which is so frustrating, but whatever, that's my issue. But what I can do is I can look around and see what Hashem has put in my yard, in the sidewalk cracks, in the neighborhood, just around. And linked in the chat box to the Ancient Roots Israel YouTube channel, where I offered a free virtual plant walk series for over a year to over 100 students all around the world. We were doing it on WhatsApp, and I would compile the videos. We did it live on WhatsApp, and there was a live Q&A, and I would go with my phone and point the camera at something and record an audio note, and it was a really cool experience. It's also on the ancientrootsisrael.com website, but that's free. And we're dealing with all the plants that were in my area in northern Israel. And anybody can go to YouTube, to our YouTube channel, and watch those videos, even one a day. Some of them are just 3 minutes long, 4 minutes long, and start to identify the wild weeds in their area that are used as medicine.
And Rivkah, can you tell me, how do we get in touch with you? What I have 3 granddaughters that are all suffering, like what Miriam said, with their hormones. How do you want them to get in touch with you?
Send them to me. They can send me an email. That's always best.
Okay.
If they're able, and they can either contact me through my email, info@ancientrootsisrael.com, or at wisewomanfertility.com. My emails are right up there. And
Okay.
I love it. I love those cases. I was just adding another testimonial to my testimonial page right before I got on this call. I love it. These are women who were told there's no hope for them, and there is. And it's so satisfying. And it's just, I've been doing this for 15 years. So more than 15 years. So I'm very, very happy to take that
Okay,
on.
great. Great. And then are you Zooming or phone calls?
I Zoom. I also like to see the face because I can sometimes see certain signs in the face, coloring. So I do like it. I mean, ideally, it would all be face to face, but because I work
Okay.
with women all over the world, it's through Zoom or Google Meets or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just one more thing. You were talking about the spiritual part of all of this. That's so important. And someone was telling me, I don't remember who it was now, but they made it a habit to bless people as they meet them for whatever it was that they themselves were going through. So, as an example, they're having horrible teeth problems. As you meet someone or before you leave them, you're just like, and I bless you with all the health that you could ever have in your mouth, and that all of your teeth problems and your gum problems, and whatever it is that you are dealing with, to bless others that they should have perfect health in that area. Really, it always comes back, and it really is nice to involve that part of it, the spiritual part of it.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
For coming.
It's been wonderful learning with you. Thank you.
All right, I guess we should conclude it's hard to conclude these fascinating discussions. They're so important. And all I would just say to anyone out there, think of yourself, if you drop a pebble in the water, this common sense, you watch the waves go out, you're the pebble. We're the pebble. And this is actually real physics, if well, I mean, the way I'm going to put it is a little poetic, but if a butterfly flapping its wings in Tokyo can cause an avalanche in Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. You see, that's what is called onomatopoeia, because the Tokyo starts with a T and Tierra del Fuego starts with a T. It's a little poetic. But the fact is, that's actually true. The way small stones can start an avalanche, that's real. We're the butterflies, we're the stones dropped in the water. Never think that our thoughts, feelings, words, and actions don't matter. That idea comes straight from the dark side forces, which in traditional Israelite teachings would be the Satan, who's an angel, The serpent's actually a living being, and the Sitra Achra, which represents general dark power forces which God created or whose existence he is allowed. See Isaiah 45 verses 1 through 10. So yes, we're all let no one a voice says, "Oh, it doesn't matter what you do, don't matter." That's the liar, the same liar who spoke to Eve in the garden. Actually, he doesn't say he starts with just asking questions. He actually doesn't say, he just asks Eve a question. And Eve over exaggerates in the answers. Well, God says we can't even touch it. God didn't say that. And that over exaggeration was the basis for, and then according to our tradition, the serpent pushes Eve against the tree. Did you die? See? It's just fine. Why don't you have a bite? And it's been downhill ever since for anyone who listens to the serpent's descendants, the Sitra Achra and the Satan. Don't listen, they're lying to you. You're important. Every individual is important. You do your thing. Even if you liked what Rivkah and Chava had to say and you post a comment on Faceless Book or Useless Tube or Twaddle, which is known as Twitter. Now it's X and Med and Schmed. And they keep changing the name, hoping people forget their various crimes against humanity. We did not forget. You never know who's watching or listening. So you post that. You're the stone for the avalanches. You're the stone in the water for the waves. And you're the butterflies. We all are. Having said that, we want to thank Rivkah and Chava for coming on. Now, my show, renewed show, Music of the World and Other Tidbits, first time in 48 years since college. I just found out that Chava went to school probably sometime long after I was there at Bryn Mawr down the street. I had no idea. We've been doing programming for years together. It's a real chidush in Hebrew. That's something new for me. And we want to thank Adi and Miriam and well, she had to go, Sharon. And I think Mary was here for joining us for episode 5 of my weekly Music of the World and Other Tidbit seminars. And we heard a little bit of Pashtun music. So, ladies, thank
Congratulations
you
on
very
your
much.
show.
What do you say?
Congratulations on your show, on starting the show, Lil
I'll tell you
Aryeh.
why I did it. So many people said, your comments are interesting, but why do you filibuster and piggyback on all the programs you host? I thought because I'm too lazy to have my own. Said, so have your own program. So finally, enough people said this. I thought, okay, I'll do it. So I did it. And this is the first, I've been doing this every week for 5 weeks that had guests. There are others coming on as well in the weeks and months ahead. So we want to wish everyone everywhere in the world a happy Hanukkah festival of lights,
Yes.
which starts next Sunday. And according to our tradition, the first festival of lights was introduced by Adam and Chava. They saw the days were getting shorter, and they thought, God's going to destroy the world. And then it started getting longer, the winter solstice. The Christians have Christmas. Before that, all the ancient pagan tribes had their festivals. The Christmas tree, the Tannenbaum, the pine tree, predates Christianity. The Hindus have Diwali Day. It's in general, most religions have some sort of, and I think that's wonderful, some sort of festival to commemorate, a festival of lights. We're all descended, hopefully, from Adam and Eve. I hope so. And they started the first one. So for everyone, with all your festival of lights, happy festival of lights, and may the light of the Torah go out and shine throughout the world. So shalom from the Lower Galilee, the Southwest Negev, Jerusalem, Columbia, North Carolina, and Boise, Idaho, and everywhere else. And Adi, it's so nice to see your actual face. I'm not supposed to, as a guy, tell you, as a married lady, you look fabulous. But considering the circumstances you're dealing with, all sorts of aches and pains, as your barefoot doctor, that's what I'm not a fan of now. But he did try to bring in the beginning medicine to the people, the barefoot doctors. You have had a remarkable transformation for the better. So we're very happy for you. That's speaking professionally as doctor. All right.
Baruch Hashem. And I'm a widow now.
Yes, and yes, Adi is a
I'm a widow.
widow, and for 2 years since July of 2023. And we know that Uriel is watching from heaven. He was quite a fighter for Jews and Israelis and people worldwide against the medical tyranny that we were experiencing. And they'll try to do it again. They won't play it against Sam with something far worse than the
We're
COVID.
all here. We're all still
We're
here.
and we will do our best to fight it. Thank you very much. So let me stop the recording now. There. Okay.